Well, this is the third talk, and at the end, I always say the same thing. I'm always talking about the same thing, but from different, let's say, frames of reference. But at the end, I'm talking about the same. I'm talking about energy and consciousness. And each one of us can get his or her own conclusions. Every day I receive many emails asking me things, and I realize that most of the answers are in the talks and the videos and the books. It's not that I'm asking you to buy the books, but the material is available for free in Change of Reality. I'm not saying this because I don't want to answer emails, but because we already have the answers and we come to them through pure logic. That's part of the path. Each one of us has to walk the path to get to the answers that are universal. Change of reality is not a change in life or anything, it's simply a change of perception. It's as if we stepped out of this frame, we could go into another scenery, the scenery or the scene of consciousness, and this frame became wider. And I will see what I mean about the frame getting larger. This talk is about how energy functions, how energy works, and the concept of good and evil. And there are two main things I want to point out first. First of all, this doesn't mean that we will assimilate right away what this means and that our life is going to change radically. None of that. I'll explain this a little bit better later. But when we start understanding the concept of good and evil and how energy works, we realize that this is a lifelong endeavor, trying to find that middle point in the non-concept. And that will help us not to divert our attention to other things. Well, let's start. The first topic is how energy works. And if you look at this little man, as I call him, this dot is lifting a weight. And this is a good example of how we live, how we have been living until now. It seems that everything is very complicated, things are hard to get, we have to make a lot of effort. And we've been living like that until now, and maybe we will continue like this for some time still, is that we need to make an effort, that we have to work, we have to invest time and energy, we have to have a discipline, dedication. I'm not saying that things cannot be achieved like that, but when we start to understand how energy works, it's very easy. It's much easier. This old paradigm of effort and competing, all this falls apart. Because then that means you get into the current of energy, you flow with energy. I know we're all talking about the same, or I think we're all talking about the same when we use the word energy. What is energy? Absolutely everything is energy. Everything. You see there, bread, money, a thought, the thought this woman has that she would like to have a diamond, fire, an animal, a mood. Everything is energy. And when you understand this, you realize that this has to be applied from morning till evening. It's basic, because then we realize that everything is made up of the same. And if something is difficult for us in our life, that means that there is a condensed energy there. It's telling us that we shouldn't go that way. You could eliminate that block by breathing consciousness. You don't need to do much. It's not so complicated. You just have to be in touch with yourself. Okay, energy is what everything is made of. So I like to explain this now. I say this quite often in other videos and in my writings, that when how is this energy created? How this universe, this civilization has been created? I'll explain what this means later. But everything we can imagine, if now a UFO landed here, that is part of our belief. It's not that we believe one thing and the UFO is another reality. It's not that. Everything we can see, everything we can imagine, we see in our dreams, even when we take psychoactive plants, they're all beliefs. It's not that it's alive, it's real. Of course, it's real. We're living it, we can see it. But it's the imagination of a consciousness. So we can stop looking when we understand that. We stop searching because everything is the imagination of a consciousness. We can have all we can imagine. We can create all we can imagine. So how did this all come about? Well, we have this has been formed, and I'm explaining this by using this example. I have this balloon. Uh, this is a shape so our mind can get what I'm trying to say here. So within a balloon, I put belief plus emotion. When I do my talks, Change of Reality, I always say that the emotion with which reality has been created, our reality, our history, is the emotion of fear. That's why everything that happens here is seen as or through the eyes of fear. It hasn't been created with the emotion of love. It's not that it's bad, but that's the emotion here, is fear. Fear disguised with other emotions. I mean, fear uh, takes us to feel other things that sometimes they're not necessarily bad. So this is created by a belief, and I call this an energy form. So everything is an energy form. It's a thought, imagination, a mood, an opinion, of course, that's another energy form. Everything we see is an energy form. This is very important if we want to understand the concept of good and evil. If we see everything as an energy form, because it is made up of an energy that has a belief and an emotion, the only way we can eradicate it is by not giving it emotion or by eliminating the belief. The first way is more feasible because we cannot get rid of a belief easily. So, in this following slide, I'm going to give the example of a universe. This is a photo of a universe, which is what we can imagine that science could discover out there. And then if science says it, it's a new energy form. Because our energy reader is science nowadays. So if science says it, we believe it. So it begins to exist. There was a physicist, I don't remember his name, that the universe exists because we observe it. And that says it all. That sums it all up. If we're aware of it, if we're conscious of it, it exists. If we don't, it doesn't. So if science discovers a new universe and they say that that exists, we all take it for granted. And that creates an energy form, and then it starts to affect us in any way. And this can be applied to anything. So the concept of good and evil, which is what I want to go in deeper here in this talk, it's complicated. It's difficult even for me, but I'll explain how it fits in all this. And this is hard for me daily. It's a matter of a lifelong search. When I say that our history, the history of civilization, when I want to transmit this, the only way I can do it is that it's like a theater play. Other people say it's like a dream. It's a theater play. And let's go into the theater play. We go into. Someone comes and tells us the past was this, gives us the past. They told us what it was like. So it becomes an energy form. We believe it. We believe things that we have not seen. We haven't even seen it, but we believe it. And we do that constantly because we pay attention to the concept of good and evil. Every belief depends on this concept, which is the same, and that's the mistake. That's the problem, quote unquote. So when I let's go back to us, our civilization. This reality is created from the concept of good and evil. That's the title of the play. We always pay attention to this concept. Everything comes out from there, and these concepts change as time goes on. Now, now we are all agree on things that we all agree that certain things are bad, and other things we all agree that are good. Although that changes depending on the culture or depending on time. I'm sure in the past some things were not appropriate, like killing. Killing in the past may have been good in cases of defending your honor. Maybe killing someone for your honor to defend your people was appropriate. And nowadays we may think that's not correct. So we call that evolution, but it's the same concept, just a different belief. We have a different belief about bad or evil, but the concept is still there because we have not gotten rid of it. So the title of the play would be Good and Evil. It's an energy form. The moment we realize that and we understand it, we'll free ourselves from it, and we will free many people, our environment. I can assure you that. But we believe that good exists, and we believe that bad or evil exists. But it's a theater play, and they're both the same. I'll come up with more examples to explain it a little bit better. It's complicated because everything is within the concept of good and evil, and it's hard to to extrapolate it from our feelings, our emotions. I'd like to say something else. I don't know which word to use because the moment you use a word, it immediately is labeled as good or bad, and we have a definition. But I like the word excellence. I have read some authors that said that excellence is the perfect way of doing things, and that has nothing to do with good or bad. It's different. In another talk, I think I gave an example. Say you are walking down the street and you see that someone falls down. Okay, well, the normal thing in general is that instinctively and out of excellence, the perfect way of doing things is that you go and help the person that has fallen down. You don't stop and think, okay, I'm going to help him or her because that's the good thing to do. Or I don't want to help because it's bad. No, you act instinctively. And I think each day we are getting farther and farther away from our instinct because we're paying more attention to the concept of good and evil. The energy line of good and evil is becoming more important. And otherwise, if this energy form didn't exist, we would not see good and bad. We would be talking about something else. If you see the energy line in the first talk, I mentioned that there's a field and there are points of consciousness. Everything we live, everything we remember is where our consciousness focuses. And it's a line in which we have lived. Our life has gone along it, along that line. And that has created our reality. It's very thick, it's there in the field. And one end we have good, and the other end we have bad. And now we see in the middle we have all the beliefs. And from there we get concepts. When I say concept, I think of something different from the belief. There is a matrix concept, a main concept, and from there all the beliefs come out. Now, I've mentioned in other notebooks about this, in other writings about this. Is the concept of couple. Is one I use as an example. We don't come in our DNA with the concept of the couple. Even the DNA can be a concept. But from the concept of couple, that we have to live in a couple with love, with order, all those beliefs that we have to do it, that runs our lives. And the most dangerous belief is the concept of good. And that's bad. I mean, that's dangerous within the concept of the couple. Because society tells you that if you give yourself, if you share everything, if you stay on the line, you're doing good. But the matrix, the original belief of all these is the concept of the couple. So everything that comes out of the concept of good and evil, it comes our history. All our history, our past comes from there. Now, here we have the energy form. You can see it here. Is the same. I use this so I can explain that it's the same. There is only belief plus emotion. And the same energy form contains both, good and bad. Because when you believe in one, you believe in the opposite. It's impossible not to do so. So you're creating the opposite. It's impossible to believe in one thing if you don't pay attention to the opposite, to the contrary. So the belief is there as possible. I believe in this, but I don't believe in that. But the other is there. You don't believe in it, but it's already there as an energy form. And this, we all create this energy form. To explain this better, I talk about the concept of God. The existence of God is a concept, is another act within the play. At one point, at one moment, it appeared. And we believe in that concept. The concept has not been transcended. We're still stuck in that concept. Because now instead of God, we talk about the universe or other names. It's a power that is outside of us. We don't have access to it, and above all, it is related to good and evil. We still have that concept, regardless of what we call it. So if you say, I don't believe in God, that means you're paying attention to the original belief of God. It doesn't matter if you believe or don't believe in God. You're giving strength to the same energy line, regardless whether it's yes or no. That's why we don't understand that going against or for something means we create the opposite, even if you're in favor of something supposedly good. Now I'm going to get to the most important part of this talk for me. I'll explain it here. If I focus on something, see this line, this person is you, and reality is out there. You focus on something, whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. You think that that is good or that is bad, but you focus on it, so you're creating it. And at the same time, you're creating the opposite because you're focusing on an energy line, which is the same, whether it's good or bad. When you're doing it from the concept of good, even if you think that's good. I wanted to come here. I'm still shocked to see or to hear this from people that have come to my talks and that seem to be more uh, knowledgeable about this. But they've heard about this, what I'm talking about, but they don't seem to know how to apply it. And I'm not criticizing anyone, of course. But when I started to understand how energy works, how the universe works, what this is, I tried to apply it. And that's where all the concepts started to come up. And I started to see other things. But evidently, if you don't reason, you don't get there. Reasoning is the path, is the way to get there. It's not going through drugs or meditation or any esoteric way of doing things. It's just reason. Reason takes you there, and from there you can move on your own. But one example, I'm not just saying this, people say, it is said that you create what you focus on. And you, at the same time, create the opposite. Many people know that because you create your reality. So people keep passing around a candle, a prayer, making a wish for the sick people or for health, or if you want to help so there are not illnesses, I have to have the concept of health in me. I have to try to feel that health exists. And that is the excellent and perfect way to live. But I'm not going to go lighting candles, making wishes, because that's dangerous. And we do that sometimes in the name of new religions. And there are too many candles out there. We're creating more of the same, thinking we are advancing. We're moving on. I'll give you an example. It's not the same. Say I tell a friend, I like to read before I fall asleep. It helps me relax and then I fall asleep. And I sleep very well and then I get up rested. It's different from saying reading before going to sleep is very good for you. I heard it on TV, Dr. Knows It All said it, they say that, so it must be good. That's different. If I speak it from my own experience, then it is a reality, and the other person may take it or not, may work for you or may not. But it's not a statement that it is good to read before you go to sleep. We do that with so many things. We constantly go around saying, this is good, they say this is good to cure this illness. For whom? You know, we hear those comments all the time, and we have to be honest with ourselves because we do it from the concept of good, and we are terrified of the concept of evil, of bad. We have to change the energy of fear. You have to move your energy from fear to non-fear. That happens because we're here in this life, in this story. But when you are outside of the line of good and evil and outside of the concept of fear, you don't say those things. You don't go around saying you have to do this is good, this is bad for you. I think this example is very meaningful. So, because you hear those comments around you all day, and we assure things that we have not lived ourselves or experienced ourselves. Actually, something happened to me today that will help to clear this up. I was sitting at a cafe and I overheard a conversation between these two people. They were talking about acidity or alkaline body. One is good, the other one is bad. They believe something without knowing, just because they heard it. Okay, I would know if someone puts fire next to my hand, I put my hand there, I burn myself. Okay, I know that that is true. I know that that's bad. But you all the time overhear people talking about things they have not experienced, and they do it not from the feeling of love, but the feeling of fear. And I don't know what the conversation was all about. I don't know what they kept talking about, how to avoid acidity in the body, but it's all beliefs that come to us from others. Others hand them down to us. Isn't it better to just breathe deeply and say that you are health and that you are in the perfect way of being? If you're ill, you do that too. Uh, Instead of trying to avoid illnesses and questioning why this happens or not, just breathe consciously. This happens too when we talk about these demonstrations for peace. We go back to the same concept of war and peace. And here is the belief and emotion. Okay, and we know we have so many demonstrations pro peace and against war, and things don't change. There is still war. Because if I go to a demonstration for peace, it's because I am not in peace myself. I am afraid. I am fearful. And we have the right to have fear. Because fear is an alarm we have in us, and it's good. I mean, when I'm afraid, I know I have to breathe deeply, I have to connect. But I don't go to a demonstration for peace or any other external thing. I have to internally breathe deeply and connect with myself. To be connect with a perfect way of not being afraid. So, because the people who go to those demonstrations for peace, they go it from the concept of good and in fear. If you go to a demonstration is good, then if they believe that's good, they will continue to create the bad. And this is how energy and reality works. The more demonstrations we have for peace, there will be more wars, and that will create more reasons to have more demonstrations for peace. So we can say that the acts that we have to be more careful with are those that come from the concept of good. And if you start to analyze yourself and see, you will see the amount of things you do following that concept. And it's only taking you to more conflict and more confusion. So, a person that is, let's say, connected with the emotion of love, that person is not even going to hear that there is a demonstration for peace. I can assure you that, because that person is already at peace with himself or herself inside. So that person doesn't even know those things are going on out there. And that's where we human beings have to go. That's, that's a compromise we all have. And this is a lifelong endeavor, as I said. All our life, we have to try or aim at transcending all these demonstrations, all these collective meditations in the name of the new religion. Just move on. Don't do things from the concept of good to save the world. We don't have to save anything. We have to look at ourselves and save ourselves. And then we will accept the people around us. This is a slide that explains what I just said. Why do I create more of what I don't want? Because we're creating that energy. Because a belief always has two sides, always has one side and its opposite, one concept and the opposite. When I talk about the couple, some people may say, well, I'm better off without a partner. I prefer to be alone. I prefer not to be in a relationship. Well, that means that person is still believing in the concept of couple. Okay? We don't know how to relate without that concept. It's all within that same balloon. To believe in the couple, to be against being in a couple. It's a belief. Let's remember now that we have this energy line, and it's the same energy line of good and evil. And everything in between are the beliefs. For peace, candle to achieve these. Uh, Everything comes from the same good and evil energy line. You're creating more of the same. It's the same line. And I repeat this a lot because this is basic. I mean, when people are sending messages to each other, instilling fear in each other, be careful, they've said this. They do it trying to help you. They think they're going to help you. But they're just transmitting or communicating fear. Once you get rid of the concept of good, of trying to help others, you will get rid of fear. Don't forward those messages to other people that only spread fear. Don't cut that channel. Don't stop that just in case. No, just realize that you need to move outside of that line. You have to step outside of that frequency. It's the same story of be careful with this, don't do this, do that. No matter how much we evolve, no matter how many medicines we have, which is fine. we have medicines, but we will not achieve health because we have not gone back to the origin. We're creating more tools, so there are more illnesses. The more medicines, more illnesses. It's only logical. You need more medicines to treat more illnesses, and more illnesses will appear the more we give medicines. The doctor cannot exist without the patient cannot exist without the doctor. One creates the other. It's a circle. Another way to do it is not just to stop being a doctor or a therapist. I mean, some people have stopped. I know some doctors or therapists that have stopped doing all this. I know two already that, but you can continue to do it, to be a doctor, a therapist, from the emotion of love, getting rid of the emotion. Some people practice Ho'oponopono or other techniques in which you stop believing that you are curing people. Realize that illness doesn't exist. It's an energetic couple. Illness, health. Okay? So stop giving strength to that. I'd like to do some talks or some conferences for the health system people, for how to help the people in the health within the health system, so they understand it. Doctors and therapists understand it, and they can help people. They can help others, and do away with panic. No more fear. So why do keep creating more of what we don't want? um, this is also basic. In the reality we see is formed, is created by this. The emotion, I put it here in the lower belly. When you say, oh my goodness, my stomach hurts, my belly hurts, is the energy there accumulated, is the fear. And then the belief on the mind. If you join belief and emotion, which is fear, you create reality. Something that is clear. For instance, if you are worried about something, say I don't have money to pay something that I need to pay tomorrow, what happens? It's a reality, I see. But I can react in many different ways to that reality. I can react differently, but we don't know because we haven't been educated like that. What do? I don't have money to pay for this, so I worry. I am afraid. So I'm very preoccupied. I'm fearful, because I believe that we do not have the money to pay for something. Some people say, well, this is stupid. Of course, we know. If I don't have the money, I don't have the money. It's a reality. But truly, you can change it if you change the belief. I've given a very easy example for everybody to understand, and it works for all of us. Because if we believe something, if we put emotion into the belief, then you create that. But if you don't, if you remove yourself from that, if you don't put energy, you change your belief, things will change. The example of money is quite complicated, but it's one that we all understand because we all know either you have it or you don't have it. Either the money is there or it isn't. But you can start practicing with small things in case you need it for bigger things later. You can be prepared. If suddenly you don't have any money at all, but you understand, you breathe, calm down, you don't believe there is a problem, I can assure you, you will connect. You put your heart in it because that's the way. You have to feel it. There is no belief, there's no low emotion like worry. And this, you can connect, even if it's only for a minute. That's already something. Even the problem may be big, but you have already advanced. You might be able to connect later, maybe 24 hours later, maybe 48 hours later. You connect again. Do it. Start with small things, practicing. And the practice is not to think how you're going to get the money. Let's see if this person can lend it to me. Let's see if I can win the lottery. No, feel that you already have it. You have to know, have it in you. That sensation, that feeling is that it has already happened. You already have the money. Feel it and make it a habit. Practice it and do it with everything. With the concept of peace. We are scared. We think there's violence, there's war. It's normal that we are scared because we have that emotion of fear. We believe that that is real. It is real. We see it, but it's a belief. Breathe deeply and connect with that excellent or perfect way of being, of existence, of peace. It already exists in the field. The perfect way of living in peace, in harmony, where there is no violence. And something will happen. It does happen. So don't wait until the critical moment when you are too scared to connect with anything. Because that's when you feel anxiety, and that's not the path. I know you can always go back. Don't worry. Just go back. You can start with minor things that don't affect you that much. And it happens because that's the way you have to live. Okay, you create. Create. Believe with your heart. Because in your heart there are no opposites. If in your heart you say, I want peace, I want peace from the concept, from the feeling of fear and scarcity, then you only create more of that. You have to believe that you are already peace. Do it with everything. If you want to help others, you have to start by helping yourself. From the moment that we all human beings feel compromised with this, I am aware that not everyone can understand this. And it's not because they're dumb. They could be much more intelligent than me or all of us. But they may not even question it. They may not think about this. But there is already a number of people. There are a number of people that are already involved in this, and they want to understand. All the people listening to this are already connected. I mean, people are already interested in how energy works. There are many people that see the title of this talk and they don't think it's nonsense. Okay? What happens is that in general, it's normal that when we have a problem, we tend to go to something that we trust, something we've done before. We follow paths that we already know, and it's normal. It's a process. But so not all of us will make this change at the same time. If we all did it, it would be incredible. It would be ideal. But then the theater play, would end because the theater play has this title, the concept of good and evil. We're starting to understand it now. Consciousness would perceive something different. That's what we're trying to get. That's what we're aiming for. People ask me, how, what do you mean? Because we're all very focused on here now. But there is another perception. This is a dream within a dream within a dream, a play within another and another. So it's good news that the play can come to an end. But I don't want to say it out loud because there seems to be fear about it. It's simply a change in perception. So I hope that what I have said so far is breathing consciously and understanding and believing. Make a belief of it. Believe that there is a field, that there is an energy, that there is a perfect way, an ideal way of doing things. And since I believed it, I wanted to have it, and it becomes part of you. So through reason, through those balloons we already have, we can get through that information until you make it yours. So one of the basic tools we have is breathing. Trying to create, not just imagining it or visualizing it, which is even better, but create that state in your being, in your body. I remember I gave another example about this. One good example, when you have an erotic dream, when you're awake but you're thinking of something erotic. I don't remember the exact word to describe that now. We all know what happens in your body when you imagine something erotic. So it's something that is natural. It happens. Somebody is saying lucid dreams. It's not a lucid dream. It's, oh, well, I wish I could remember. The word escapes me now. Oh, someone told me a fantasy. When we're having an erotic fantasy while we're awake, why is that so easy? And our body responds in a natural way, in an instinctive way. It's there. But since we don't have to tell anybody, we don't share that, that's something intimate, we all do that, but we don't tell anybody. So it's an instinct that is there, but everything that society touches it, everything that is stained in a way by concepts, the body doesn't react in the same way. It has to be something that is perfect, excellent, and we have to bring it here. Even if you're very ill, I know it's very complicated. If you're feeling very ill, it's difficult to believe that you are healthy, but try to bring health and feel you're healthy, even if you're not feeling well. Connect with that time when you felt healthy, because in the field, all the possibilities exist. Now, if I fall down and I break an arm, I know that there is a possibility that if I have fallen, I have not broken the arm. If I am ill, the possibility of being healthy is just as real. Okay? So, if we have war, there is the possibility for peace, and we have to bring it here, and not from the emotion of fear, but breathing deeply and knowing that we can do it. So that's why it's complicated. I know, but we have to try to do it. It's an exercise we have to do. And with this, we already have everything in life. So when there is coherence, there is not energy form. This is the way to focus, to center within ourselves. Otherwise, we're always in good or bad. And this is the way to stop living in this lack of balance. So there is no balance per se. What exists is the search for balance. And that's where we find quiet and peace, when we're searching for balance. Because if everything was perfectly balanced, life wouldn't exist. Because consciousness is action. But by searching balance, we find that center, that moment of quiet and peace. Even if it lasts for a moment, that's what we're trying to get. Because it seems that for a moment you're outside of the imbalance. That's what we should try to do. Start with small things so we can expand it. Well, I think this was a good talk, not because of what I said, but because it lasted only 45 minutes, which is what I was trying to do. Well, we could talk about this much more, but the least we talk about this, the better. Because we should just remember what I said and try to assimilate it. Everything fits within what I have said. Everything is a frame within a frame, and another frame. And in Change of Reality, what I'm trying to tell you is that you have to make your frame as wide as possible so everything is as small as possible. Well, thank you very much for your interest. Goodbye.